consultant on this point. We get a clinical perspective on this. First, Patrick Timms, who's editor of the political blog Wolves of Westminster. Afternoon to you, Patrick. Now, I understand you have your own reasons for the view you have on this position.
Well, indeed I do, and thank you very much for having me on. Yes, so it's interesting, actually, this, isn't it? Just as briefly go into the legislation, it was illegal to commit suicide in any way, shape or form until 1961 in England and Wales. I've always found that a bit bizarre. I mean, crime is about punishment. I mean, he's dead. What are you going to do to him? But of course, they're also talking about attempted suicide. Okay, that's what they're getting at. Okay, so let's just get that one out of the way. Now, the reason I've come on is I'm going to tell you my story. I have an invasive fungemia, which is a fungal infection that is blood-borne. It is systemically affecting my organs. It is in the process of crossing the blood-brain barrier. It causes me to have seizures. I'm in constant pain. I am not here to say that I wish to die. What I am here to say is that I turned 38 last week. The chance of mortality is now estimated at 70%. In all likelihood, I will not survive. I will be unlikely to see 40. So, what this becomes about is a question of control, because it changes, really it does, it changes your priorities in life when you're not likely to see that much more of it. It changes how you think about things. And sometimes when the only control that you have over your life, because especially when you have seizures, that sort of thing, you are bereft of control. When you have a terminal prognosis, you are bereft of control. Sometimes the only control that you feel you have left over your life is how long it lasts. Now, this must be done properly. And the bill does at least attempt to put safeguards in place. I'm also a 3-time suicide survivor. I don't mind talking about it. We haven't got time to talk about that. But I have experienced this sense before. It was the same for me half my life ago, when I felt that the only control I had was how long it lasts. It also changes, as I say, your priorities as to what kinds of things you will do. Now, the last time I was on this station, it wasn't your show, it was Christo's. I was talking about having been involved in armed combat back in March. Now, I did that to defend the property I was living in. And I survived, but either of us could have died. But part of the reason why I went into that was because I thought, do you know what? Getting your brain eaten by a mushroom, that's my act of defiance. I call it the mushroom. It's not a mushroom, it's a fungus, but technically it's a yeast. But, do you know, I'd rather go out like a bleeding man on my feet, armed, defending. So this becomes about personal choice and control. And that, I think, is the spirit in which this bill has been introduced. It is right that there should be safeguards. But ultimately, my prognosis is that I will become less and less competent. By the end, I will be incapable and will need to be looked after.
So this is a... sorry to interject for a moment, Patrick, but as I understand it then, this is a decision that you could make prior to this 6-month cut-off point that the government are proposing in this, or certainly this member of Parliament is proposing in this bill. But you could pre-request that. Is that about right?
I'm not making this decision tomorrow. Okay, but what I'm saying is that it's, ultimately for me, things will probably finally end in one massive seizure that I simply don't recover from, but I will be incapable by that point. Now, with that said, when you're my age and you're actually having to do things like wills and lasting powers of attorney and that sort of thing. I mean, I have left instruction: if I'm a vegetable, turn the damn thing off. Okay, so it is about personal. Now, other people would make different decisions. And I have no opposition to that. But what I would say is it is actually about personal choice. It is about opening up that option to people. Nobody, and then we have the debate around coercion, don't we? We have that. But in fact, there might be people like, normally when we're talking about that, we're talking about, elderly relatives or somebody wants an inheritance or something like that. Well, that's not the case for people like me, but I might want to make my own choice in the end. And all this does is enable that.
Okay. So listen, on that point, Patrick, I'm sure we will speak again on this, but I'm grateful for your time. Patrick Timms is the editor of the political blog Wolves of Westminster.